How's everybody doing today? My name is Nick. I'm the pastor. Welcome to River Lake Church. We believe church should be relevant, simple, and real. I want to welcome all those watching online or on Facebook Live. We are glad you're all here this morning. We've got a great day today. I want to tell you a little bit about me growing up in middle school and high school and grade school and really my life up to a certain age of mine. How many of you, really quickly, you would say that you were a procrastinator? Just really quickly, you'd be like, yeah, I wait to the last minute. Quit nudging your spouse. I can see you. There's a couple wives are doing the, whole deal. So I was that guy. I would get up in the mornings and like test day, and I'd be like, oh, I have a test. I need to spend a good solid 20 minutes studying this, and then it was one of those things that like, literally, the amount of time that you put into a test, whatever that is, a paper, whatever that is, the grade was really okay. So if you spent like 20 minutes studying for a test, man, let's just be honest. C's pretty good. Like you get that back and you're like, I didn't fail. Thank you, Jesus. And I found that really the less I studied, this is so interesting, the more I prayed. I don't know about you, but the less I studied, there's a dynamic there. The more that I studied, I'm like, I got this, Jesus. You just help somebody else because I'm good, which never happened. But anyway, I was a procrastinator. But here's the crazy part, and this is where maybe I'm a little bit different, but I'm different, I know that. But I love that feeling. Some people, it stresses them out, that it's chaos, it's last minute, they just get overwhelmed really, really easy. But there's a part of me that it's like a high, it's like fun for me. I love chaos, I love all that kind of stuff like that. I love this last minute, trying to fix it, trying to get it, trying to prove like I could do it. Look at that. I didn't study at all, and I studied 20 minutes, I got a better grade than you. Ha ha. That's kind of me, and I love that. I love that. That's not probably normal, but here's what I know. For every one of us, we have the same number of hours in a day. We have the same number of minutes in a week. We have the same amount of time, and yet how we use that, same amount of time determines the impact, the legacy, and where we end up in life. Every single one of us. In fact, here's a number that is just rolling in my head constantly. It's the number 168. That's the number of hours that you have in a week. It's the number of hours that I have in a week. As a matter of fact, every single person in here, you have 168. I had a friend of mine recommend this book to me, 168. And he said, listen, you need to read this, Nick, because here's what we know. We talk about this often, and today we're going to talk about time if you haven't figured that out yet. Sorry, but that's what we're talking about. But as we know, in our world today, there are some people that are incredibly successful, and it seems like they accomplish so much. You look at successful entrepreneurs and business people, and it's the mom that's got it all together, and it's like she's on the PTA and she cooks all home-cooked meals, and she's got wonderful kids, and her husband's really, really happy, and she's also got a side business, and she sells, gummy bear vegetable things, on the side, and just it's like she is like uber mom. And there's some moms in here, you're like, I'm happy if I wake up. That's my goal today. I just want to wake up and get out of bed. I mean, and there's a temptation in all of us to look at it and go, how do they do that? Because you look at your schedule like I look at my schedule, and there's a temptation to look at it and go, I don't have enough time. I need more hours in the day. I need more. But the reality is, and what we're going to talk about today, and what I'm going to push you on a little bit, and what we're going to kind of unpack together is, every single person in here, you have 168. You have the same amount of time. But what you do with it, how you spend it, determines your capacity. See, we're in the middle of a series called Brand New. In week one, if you missed it, what we talked about was this. It said, listen, every single one of us, we have a capacity. We have an impact that we get to make. We have a capacity that we can fill, but our capacity is determined by the conditions we bring to the table. That every single one of us, we've got these conditions that kind of determine our capacity, and we kind of use the working out illustration, and I kind of talked about that whole thing about like, listen, I had some limitations in my capacity. Why? Because I had some conditions of I don't do legs, I don't do cardio, and I don't eat vegetables. I'm working on one of the three right now, but that's it. So, but we talked about that, and we kind of walked through that, and today I want to talk about time, because here's the deal. You have a capacity, but it's determined by your conditions. And if you want to grow your capacity, if you're sitting here today, which I believe many of us are, maybe most of us are, and you would be honest with yourself and you say, I am so full. I don't have enough time. I'm so busy. If you would say, listen, I would love a few extra minutes. I would love an extra hour a day. I would love, if you have a capacity issue, today is so for you, because we're going to unpack some conditions. Some conditions that I bring to the table, some conditions that I believe that you bring to the table that impact our capacity. And if we're willing today to walk out of here and challenge the conditions. Challenge what we bring to the table. Challenge what we tell other people, what we tell ourselves, and even sometimes what we tell God. Your 2017 can be the year that you've always wanted it to be. So, there's a scripture, though, we're going to start with. It impacted me in a mighty, mighty way. I've been thinking about it all week, and it's this. Psalms 90:12. It says this. This is Moses' prayer. And I love it. It's a beautiful prayer put right in the middle of the book of Psalms, and it says this: teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. That phrase right there, the thing that jumped out to me was this concept of teach us to number our days. There's two things that kind of go with that. Number one is, I don't instinctively do this. You don't instinctively do this. That we don't get up every single morning and go, wow, I only have so many days left. I better maximize this day. I better figure out how to best use this day. We don't instinctively, naturally do this. Moses says, listen, God, I need you to teach me to wake up with an understanding, to wake up with an ability, with a capacity to number my days. And the second thing is, and you know this before you came in here, but again, we don't think about it too much. You have, and I have, a specific number of days. Now, for many of us, we don't know what the number is, but we all know that at some point, our days will end. It's 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, 100 years, I mean, whatever that is, but in the big scheme of things, you have a number of days. But the problem for me, the problem for you is we waste so much of it. And we don't like to admit that, but we do. It's the deathbed kind of things that we struggle with. It's the things that as people are laying on the deathbed and they regret wasting their time. They regret spending so much time with their job. They regret not spending enough time with their family and investing in their marriage. They regret why? Because they waste so much time. There's a great book, and if you struggle with this, I would encourage you to read it. It's called 168. And one of the most profound things they got out of it was this. They did a whole bunch of studies with Harvard and Stanford and all these studies on time management. And what they came to the conclusion was that most people overestimate how much time they spend working. Why? Because it makes them feel really, really good. It's like, oh, I work 60 hours a week. I work 70 hours a week. I work 80 hours. I work so much. And what they discovered was, no, almost nobody actually works. Now, you might be clocked in, okay? But you're not actually working. Most people, almost nobody works what they really, really say they work. But they over-exaggerate. Why? Because it makes them feel better. The other side is actually true, too. They said, listen, most people underestimate how much time they spend watching TV, playing video games, spending time on Facebook, looking at memes and funny things on the internet, and just kind of overall wasting time. Why? Because it embarrasses them, and they don't like that. So almost everybody, the book talks about, almost everybody walks with this incorrect understanding, this incorrect view of how they are spending their days. And Moses' prayer, I love this. Moses prays and says, listen, I know my capacity to deceive myself. God, teach me. Teach me to number my days, because I have a short period of time. And one day, I'm going to run out. And I don't want to waste it. So, as I said, today, we're going to be incredibly practical. I'm going to give you four conditions that I believe that you say, that I say, that at some point we all say in different ways, and maybe just kind of different things that we say. And when we say that, my encouragement to you is, would you just pause? And just ask the question, is that a condition? Is that reality? Am I dealing reality? Or is it me tricking myself? Is it me deceiving myself to make myself either feel better and not deal with the reality that, you know what, I'm not being a great steward of my time, and therefore I'm not having the impact that I'm called to have. So, number one is this. I'm not a planner. How many of you are not planners? Liars, okay? Like 5 people, I'm not a planner. The rest of you are planners. That's great. Okay, cool. So all of you can sign up for the planning session that we have for our church, and it'd be great. Just kidding. No, I mean, many of us, we said it's a disposition, right? It's how God made you. And then we talk a lot about how God makes us. That becomes the defining thing for like everything that we do in life. We sit back and go, hey, I'm just trying to be 100. I'm just trying to be real. I'm just trying to be just who I am. I'm not a planner. And again, that's our excuse. We sit back and we say that. Some of us do. I'm not a big planner, but here's what I know. God's got something amazing for you to do. I believe that every single person, no matter where you're at, no matter your past, no matter your present, no matter what you've done, wrong or right, God has something amazing for you to do here on earth. I do not care what's happened. Your future is in front of you. And we say it all the time, and it's because I believe it with every bit of my core. The best is yet to come. But how you spend your time, not your past. How you plan, not the mistakes you make. What you're willing to put into for your future, not how you've spent your past, will determine where you end up. And again, we love to talk about our past and stuff like that because it gives us an excuse, but that's not the reality. In fact, Proverbs says this, Solomon, the wisest guy ever, says this. He says, the plans of the diligent lead to profit, as surely as haste leads to poverty. I love that. It gives me hope. It should give you hope. Because here's what it says. If you're willing to plan, if you're willing to sit down and go, hey, listen, I've got to accomplish some stuff. God's put something in my heart. God's got something great for me to do. God wants to enrich some area of my life. Because see, here's the deal. We read that, and it's easy to take it and think it means just money. But here's what I know. You can profit and you can be rich in multiple areas of your life. See, some of you, your marriage is relationally poor. Why? Because for some, not all, but for some it's a lack of planning. You don't plan date nights. You don't plan conversations. You don't carve out time to pray together at night before you go to bed, or you don't carve out time to talk about your weeks, and you're just kind of existing together. You're just kind of going through the motions. You're just kind of expecting it to be okay and kind of walk through everything like that. And as surely as haste, it leads to poverty. And I'm just telling you, I do way too much marriage counseling. This is every single story that it just wake up one day and you just fall out of love. You just wake up one day and you're relationally poor. Some of you, your connection with your kids isn't as good as you want it to be. And you're relationally poor. It's not about money. But you can be rich in relationships. But let me just push you a little bit. Hey, what are you planning? Are you planning, like my son and I, we call it man time. With my daughters, we call them, I date every one of my daughters, the smallest to the oldest. Why? Because I know that if I want to have profit, if I want to be rich in relationships, I better plan. I just can't wake up one day and go, you know what, I never thought anything about it, but man, me and my kids, we are so close. It just doesn't work that way. I just tell you what I hear a lot of with kids. Nick, I don't know what happened. They just got in the teenage years and just kind of drifted apart. Just kind of lost them. I don't know what happened. Planning. It's a huge, huge part. God has something he wants to enrich in your life in 2017. Probably many things. But I can promise you, when it comes to your time, it will happen if you plan. But let me tell you where we're going to go today. You have multiple different things in your life that matter. See, this is a big thing. This is your relationship with God. This is your family. This is your future things. This is like the book that you want to do or the business you want to start or that big thing, that like huge thing. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, that really would, what do we talk, enrich your life. This will not happen unless you plan, no. But just like everything else, just like all of your plans happen. Let me tell you your story because it's my story. These two things get in the way. See, this is the things you have to do but don't really enrich your life. This is taking your kids to band practice, okay? You got to do it because, you signed them up for it. You paid all that money, and you're going to be darned if they don't go there. That's your whole deal. It's fixing your house, mowing your lawn. It's making meals. It's going to work. It's just, they're important things. Every single one of you right now, you have many, many, many important things that you need to do that really, they don't enrich your life. You're not going to look back 5 years from now and go, wow, that was the day. You just got to do them. And then you've got this, and you probably can't see it, but it's like a little bird seed. This is important. This is Netflix. This is TV. This is like, you reading novels that aren't good or whatever. This is like all the little things that they add zero value. This is playing video games. This is kind of, shopping for things you don't need. It's spending money. It's just, this is all the things. Here's the problem. These two things take up all your time. And they interrupt this. And what we fall back on, what I fall back on, is I go, you know what? Man, I know I need to get better at this. I just don't have time to plan. Not And if you see yourself saying that, I just want to encourage you, would you pause? Would you pause and realize that's a condition? That's a condition that you made up about your disposition. That God made you that way, therefore you're stuck that way. And that is so far from the truth. That anything that's important, you need to plan. Number 2 is this. There's nothing wrong with blank. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with kind of what I'm doing. There's nothing wrong. This is the small little seeds. This is the small insignificant things. This is the things that you should not be doing. And again, so much of my life, and probably I'm assuming your life, is filled with this category right here. We don't ask what's right with it, because we know the answer to that. That's convicting. Is this the right thing to do? No. We just justify it and go, hey, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with going to lunch with her or him. I mean, I know it's not my spouse, but there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. There's no Bible verse against that. Nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with spending $3,000 on a TV that's 75 inches and a flat panel LED at Best Buy on sale this week. Not that I've checked anytime soon. But anyway, there's nothing wrong with that. There's no Bible verse against that. I've looked through all the Bible. There's no TV mentioned ever again. If God's not against it, he must be for it. Nothing wrong with it. I've got the cash. Let's go. And even if you don't have the cash, it's 0% financing because they're so unbelievably nice, aren't they? I mean, they are amazing. It's like we're friends, me and Best Buy. They speak my language, and it's called credit, okay? There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it at all. We fill our time. We fill our time with nothing wrong with it. And it's not filled with the right things. It's not filled with what God's called us to do. It's not filled with the things that really impact us the most. No. We spend a good chunk of our time. A good chunk of our time. Doing the minuscule, the immediate, the urgent, the silly, the irrelevant. All under the guise. All under the condition. There's nothing wrong with it. And in the process, we have no clue what's at stake. It's a story I want to tell you. It's about King David. And it's one of the stories I come back to a lot because I need to remind myself the power of time. I need to remind myself what happens when I waste time and when I don't follow. Not the wrong thing, but when I don't do the right thing. And it's this story right here. It's in 2 Samuel chapter 11, and it says this. In the spring, and here's the key word, time. At the time, there's a time for this. At the time, when kings go off to war, David, who is the king, sent Joab. Let me break this down to you really quickly. The king was supposed to do something, and King David sent somebody else to do his job. The king sent Joab with the king's men, the whole Israelite army. They destroyed the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah. But David remained in Jerusalem. Here's the setup. David was supposed to be somewhere, and he wasn't. He's supposed to be there. It's like, listen, you, David, where are you supposed to be? Well, I should be. I'm supposed to be. You know, it's like it's the right time. It's the right season. I'm supposed to be with my men at the army. What are you doing? I'm staying at home. Why? There's nothing wrong with it. Hey, listen. Last time I checked, I'm king. Nobody's above me. Nobody can tell me what to do. I can do whatever I want. I'm large and in charge. I'm dad. I'm mom. I can do whatever I want. I can go wherever I want. There's nothing wrong with it. Just like David could sit back and look at his advisor and go, hey, guys, I checked the whole Old Testament, what we've got of it, and nothing says that, hey, I'm supposed to be out there, okay? I know it's the right thing to do. I know it probably should be, but you listen, there's no Bible verse for it. God must be good with it. I'm good. Listen, at the time, listen. Here's what I know. This is just, I'm going to speculate, but I'm like 99.9% right on what I'm going to speculate. If you would have, in this moment, if David had round table advisors and he's talking about what his plans are and he says, listen, here's the deal, guys. I'm going to stay home. I've spent my whole life fighting. If you read the story of David, he spends his whole life at war. He is a fighter. That's his whole deal. If he's sitting around with his advisors and he says, listen, I know I probably should, but I'm tired and I'm weary and I spent my whole life fighting. Guys, listen, I'm just going to send Joab. Joab's just as good as general as me. And listen, it worked. So it's not even that it doesn't work. Guys, I'm just going to send him out to fight. We cool with that? I guarantee you, like all of his advisors look at him and go, absolutely, you're the king. You deserve a break. Man, look at David, you're amazing. Take the season off. You're good. Let somebody else do it. And David does what he shouldn't do. And in so many ways, I believe it just was so easy for him to go, listen, there's nothing wrong with it. But I guarantee if one of those advisors, just one of them, would have just said, hey, David, can I just pause real quick, David? I know there's nothing, quote unquote, wrong with it, but man, have you ever thought about David? What if all the men leave and you're here all alone, and one night you're out on a roof and you see a naked woman, and then you sleep with that naked woman, and she gets pregnant, and then you kill her husband to hide it, and then the baby dies, and then God gets mad at you, and then one of your sons rapes another one of your daughters, and then another brother kills that brother, and your whole family and your whole rest of your life is thrown into chaos because you stayed home in one weekend. What if that happens? What do you think David's response would be? Little extreme, dude. Okay? Calm down. You've been watching the news way too much. You've been hyping everything up. I'm just taking the weekend off. And yet, that's the story. David, at the time, when kings go off to war, justified and said, hey, there's nothing wrong with it. And the rest of his earthly life is spent in complete chaos. Because he didn't make the connection. Because he came to God with an excuse. Because he was justifying an aspect of his life. Let me just push you a little bit less. What is it that you're justifying right now? What is it that you're letting somebody else do that you should do? What is it, and maybe in your marriage and your finances and your relationships, maybe with your kids? What is it that you're allowing, what is it that you're justifying, that you'd sit back and maybe somebody else had brought something up to you and said, hey, should you be doing that? Is that the wise thing to do? And you're going, listen, there's nothing wrong with it. And everything in you, you're justifying. I'm just telling you right now, if you could just pause. I get it. Remind yourself. It's a condition. And the reality is your life probably isn't going to end up like David's because you called in sick one day when you really weren't. Your life's probably not going to end up like David's because you did, you're just justifying something. You bought a TV you shouldn't, or you bought a house or a car or, whatever. It's probably not going to end up that bad, but it's the wrong way to look at life. You were here for a purpose. You were made for something. And this got in the way of that destiny. And David had no clue. All because he said, you know what? There's nothing wrong with it. Number 3, it says, I don't have enough time. I've changed it a little bit now because I wrote this sermon. I feel really convicted. But it's amazing how you can work around things. I used to say this all the time. I don't have enough time. I'm so busy. I have so much going on. My schedule is so packed. I have no margin. I'm so busy. I don't have enough time. As if somehow I have less than 168 hours like everybody else has. I don't have enough time. And it's a condition. It's a condition that we get. And here's what I'm saying when I say this. When I say that, what I'm really saying is, I don't have enough time for the really, really important things. Because I've yet to hear somebody say, Nick, I just don't have enough time to play Xbox. I've not heard that story yet. I don't have enough time to search the internet. I don't hear that. I don't have, see, we fill our lives with the insignificant, the irrelevant, and the silly. First, normally. And then we fill it with, I got to go to work, and I got to take my kids to stuff, and I got to go serve in the church or something like that, and I got to go help somebody else. I got to go help a friend move. They're important things to do. It's not that they're not important. You need to do them, and you can't really not do some of them, but, the whole deal. And what struggles is we look back and we go, man, my relationship with God is really struggling. But Nick, you don't understand. I get up so early. I don't have enough time in the morning. And at night, you don't understand. I'm so busy. I'm tired. Work all day. I got all this stuff. And I know I should. I know I should date my wife, my spouse. I know I should hang out with my kids more. I know I should be nicer. I know I should probably eat healthier. But have you seen how long it takes to cook something? Wendy's takes 30 seconds. There's a reason that the lines are full, okay? And I know this is struggling. But it's just so easy. And I'm so busy. If you knew my schedule, you'd understand. The problem with it is, it's a condition. It's a condition not based on reality. It's much like how we overrepresent how much we do and underrepresent how much we waste. And I believe that every single one of us, we have two or three things. It's at this point that if I could juggle, I would. I have zero talent when it comes to that, though. So anyway, but I believe that every one of us, it's our faith. Faith comes first. And the first part's really, really important. See, it's interesting. God talks a lot about not just what we do, but when we should do it. And maybe you've never noticed that. Maybe you've thought the Bible is full of all these like rules, like, hey, don't do this, and make sure you do this, and make sure you go here. But actually, if you read it, God's just as interested, not just in what you do, but when you do it, in the order. And over in Scripture, there's this kind of principle of first things first, meaning the thing that you would say, yes, that is the most important thing about it. That is my first should be first. Should get the priority. You should be able to do that first. Why? Because it's the first thing. And so for many of us, wherever you're at, I believe that your faith is number one. I believe that your family is number two. But again, whether you believe in God or not, and if you don't, that's okay. We're so glad you're here today. This is a safe place. You can kind of experience and, kind of walk and discover that relationship with God. But, so wherever you're at, but wherever you're at, your family, it's one of them. It's a big deal that at the end of your life, you're not going to look back and go, man, I'm so glad that I spent 17 hours a week looking at Facebook. All those memes were hilarious, and it was worth it. Oh, I'm so glad that I did all the lawn maintenance. I mean, my flower bed looked amazing for years, and man, that was amazing. No. You look back on your life, you're going to look back and you're going to go, my family. That's what's important. And then you've got something else. And I don't know what this is for you, because it's unique to you. But again, I started today out talking about how every single one of you, you've got a destiny, you've got a calling, you've got a legacy that God wants you to leave behind. And it's unique. It's not mine. Mine's different than yours. And I can't decide that. But here's what I know. It will require you to get rid of all of your conditions for you to accomplish that. It will require you to plan. It will require you to quit saying that you're too busy. And if people only knew how busy you were, they wouldn't judge you. It will require you to quit justifying and going, hey, there's nothing wrong. It's going to require you to do something really, really great. But there's a passage I want to put up here really quickly. And it's from Ephesians. And here's what it says. It says, be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. I could preach for weeks on this one verse, but I want to point out one thing really quickly. It says, be very careful. Let me just ask you, let me push you a little bit. How careful are you with your time? You're careful probably with your money. Right? It's your money. You make more money. You can't make more time. Paul's writing this. He says, listen, the days are evil. There's some things out there that they are going to distract you. They're going to pull you away. And you're going to have all these conditions. They're going to try to pull you away from the one thing that God's made you for. He says, be very careful. And then he gives us this grid. He says, not as unwise, but as wise. When you ask the question, or you make the statement, there's nothing wrong with it. It's the wrong statement. Because that's not how you're called to live your life. The question you need to be asking is, one, am I making the most of every opportunity? And if you're not sure, if you're like, well, I don't know if I'm making the most of every opportunity, just ask the question of everything you do. Is it the wise thing to do? Not can you do it? Is it the wise thing to do? Is me spending every single Saturday in that hobby, is that the wise thing to do? When I have young kids that are very impressionable and I'm gone because I work all week and I'm not there, is that the wise thing to do? Is me spending money on whatever I want to spend money on, is that the wise thing to do? Is me not spending time with my spouse on date nights, is just kind of just trusting, hoping to wake up the next day and everything's cool for years and years and years, just hoping it's going to be okay. Is that the wise thing to do? Is that the wise spend of your time? Paul says, listen, the days are evil. And they will rob you of what's most important. They will steal them from you if you're not careful. And you will wake up one day regretting everything. Now, it's an illustration. Some of you have seen this. That's okay. So I think it's important to do. But when people say they don't have enough time, what they're really saying is it's not about time. They think it is. But it's about priorities. As I said, God talks a lot about first things first. But if you can imagine, this is all your fun stuff. Netflix, Facebook, memes, whatever. Doesn't matter. And this is your 168. You take all this and you kind of pour it in there. First, you get up in the morning and you check your phone every morning. First thing you do when you get up. Why? Because, man, is it really, really important for you to see if anybody liked your comment or not, right? I know it is for me. And you do all that. And again, these like you got to do these. These are important things. You go to work. You help some friends out with move and stuff like that. You kind of do some stuff with your kids, maybe whatever that is. You take them to practice or whatever. Mow your lawn. Serve at church. I mean, these are important things. This is like your hobby. This is like the one unique one, that's like uniquely you, but not everybody's, but you just kind of do all these. And you put them in your 168. I mean, after you checked your Facebook and you kind of did all that, and you kind of slept in late and you did the whole thing, you did that. And then you get to your stuff. God really wants me to start that business or write that book or do that great thing or kind of invest in that company or whatever, but I just don't have enough time anymore. And I know I should date my wife. I know I should go out. I know I should make it a priority, but I'm just so busy. I just got all these conditions. It just doesn't quite, just however you, I'm so busy. I don't have time. And I know God's important. And listen, I'm going to squeeze an hour in there. But it's still not enough, and I know it's not enough, and I kind of got a little bit in there. I just don't have enough time. And for many of us, this is how we live our lives. But it's not a time issue. Because again, some of you have seen this before. See, if you put God first, this was the God one, sorry. Put your family. And then that unique thing, that amazing thing that I'm just telling you is so much more at stake than you realize that if you would just do, oh my goodness, your world would be different. And you would look back and go, wow, I can't believe I wasted so many years. And then you go to the gym. You work out and you start making healthy meals and you go to work and clean the house and serve at church. And you kind of do your stuff. And you got your hobby here and a whole bunch. And again, they're the good things. And you kind of start doing your stuff. And even before you get all your important stuff done, you start to mix in some of your fun stuff. You got some extra. You got plenty of time. Matter of fact, looks like I got an extra 3 hours to watch some Netflix. You don't have a time problem. You have a priority problem. And let me suggest something that might be radical to you. You're too busy not to put God first. I mean, the temptation in all of us to sit back and look at it and kind of go, oh, you don't understand. I'm so busy, Nick. I don't know if I have enough time to get up early and spend time with God. I don't know if I have enough time to get to church every single. You want me to come to church like every single week? I mean, listen, I can fit it 2 or 3 times a week, but I'm so busy. I just got so much going on. I'm just telling you right now, you don't have enough time to not put God first. You don't have enough time to mess up the order. Because all you've got's 168. But if you can start to put first things first, if you can start to put the right things in there first, what is going to happen is you will be blown away. That not only are you accomplishing everything that you were designed to accomplish and made to accomplish, but you actually have extra time. It's counterintuitive, but it's the way that God made this world. Last one is this. We're going to wrap it up. I don't want to. This is my favorite because that's mine. Like, can I just be honest? There's just certain things I know are good for me. I know, and if I was smart, I'd reach down there and grab one of those tennis balls, but I'm not going to. I just know it's good for me. Eating healthy, I know it's good for me. Replacing a bun with a portobello mushroom on top of it? No, not cool, all right? I don't want to do that. I'm sure it's better for me. Less carbs. I'm not doing that. I don't want to. Cookie, broccoli. I don't want to. Getting up in the morning, working out. I don't want to. 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 And yet, in our culture, we base so much on what we want to do instead of what we should do. Instead of what's going to have the biggest impact. In fact, here's what I'd suggest. The greatest achievements in your life, the greatest things you've ever accomplished in your life, there's a season, there's a time, there's a moment where you looked and you know, I don't want to do that, but you did it anyway. And you're glad that your desires will deceive you. Your desires will mess you up. And this whole concept of I'm full and I got so much to do, so busy. Can I just tell you that you can have a busy life and not a full life? I see it all the time. You can be running and feel completely empty. And I run into people every now and then that they have so much margin and they're full. And it's because they do a lot of things they don't want to do. They've got a different perspective. There's a scripture, 2 Corinthians says this. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, not on what is now, not on what we want to do, not on what is in front of us, but on what is unseen. Since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. God has put eternity in your heart. He has made you to desire to want to live forever. That's a good thing. But the reality is one day your life will end. Moses understands. That's why he started. He says, listen, God, teach me to number my days because one day I'm going to run out of days. But here's the reality. That ending is just a beginning. And in fact, that life, this life right now, it's insignificant. That 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years that you're going to live here right now, it is so insignificant to eternity. And too often people make decisions and go, I just want to be happy. I don't care. I just want to, or I don't want to. I know I should invite that person to church, but I don't want to. What if it's awkward? What if this small amount of my life is very, very awkward? What if I have a really bad week? What if it doesn't work out well? Oh, I don't want to eat healthy. I don't want to go there. I don't want to apologize to that person. Are you kidding me, God? I don't want to. And we make all these decisions, neglecting how we're made, rejecting how God orchestrated our lives. We're completely dishonest with ourselves about what we need to do. So we lie. We say it's not a big deal. We got all these conditions. I don't want to. I don't want to. What is it? What is it that you want to do that really, in light of eternity, makes perfect sense? In light of what God would have you do, in light of your destiny, in light of your legacy, that makes perfect sense. But there's a part of you that's fighting back and going, I don't want to. I know I probably should, but I don't want to. I'm just going to live my life based on my wants and desires. I want to invite the ushers to come forward as we transition to our time of communion. Communion celebrates a moment where our Savior had a desire of I don't want to. Where he looked at earth and he knew what was coming. He looked very realistically and said, they're going to beat me half to death and it's going to hurt, it's going to be painful, and I don't want to. And then they're going to kill me. They're going to nail me to a cross. It's going to hurt like crazy, and I don't want to. And then I'm going to die. And I've got loved ones, and I got people I care about, and I got a mom who's going to watch all this. And I don't want her to see it. I know what it's going to do to her, and I don't want to. And so he prays. If this cup can be taken from me, let it be. Not my will. God, you've got an eternal perspective. God, you've got something much, much bigger than what I'm looking at right now, because I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at what's seen, and what's seen is painful, but God, you've got an eternal perspective. Not my will, but your will in my life be done. So I want to end today with this as we take communion. Communion, it says, is a moment to reflect. Reflect on what our Savior has done for us, and in turn, reflect on how much we're becoming like our Savior. So, as we pass out the elements, I just want you to ask one question, if you would, in the stillness and the quietness of your heart, and let God's Spirit speak to you. What is it? What's the condition you're bringing to God right now? Maybe it's something that you don't want to do, that you feel convicted about. Maybe it's I've been talking. There's something you need to stop. There's something you need to start. There's just something God's been working on you, and you feel convicted, and your condition is, but I don't want it. I don't want to start eating healthy. I don't want to start a budget. I don't want to start spending my time that way. I don't want to quit that relationship. I know it's not gone too far, but it's farther than I'm probably comfortable with. But there's not a verse against it because it's just lunch. It's just a Facebook friend request. It's just a conversation. I don't know what it is for you. For some, it's you just got an excuse. What are you justifying? There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. For some, it's you're not a planner. You've got something big, and there's nothing wrong with your life. It's just God's got something more for you. And you're just like, but you just continually, I'm not a planner. I'm not a planner. What? And for some, it's just a lie. I'm too busy. And it's not that you're too busy. You just got the wrong priorities. And this week, God's just saying, hey, would you put me first? Would you put first things first? Would you spend time with me? Would you ask that as we pass out the elements? Let me pray.